Hello, my name is Nick Gribbon, and apparently I have an addiction. I'm addicted to my cell phone, I'll admit. But for years, this has been an addiction that's flown under the radar. Just until a few weeks ago, when I took the cell phone compulsion test to find out that I, in fact, scored a 9 out of 15, and I am officially addicted to my cell phone. You too can take a cell phone compulsion test on your cell phone, as I did. And believe me, the irony of such a thing is not lost on me. However, cell phone addiction is no joke. In America today, the American Addiction Center defines cell phone addiction, or behavioral mobile phone use, as a behavioral addiction which is similar to gambling, internet shopping, or video game addiction, and one that can lead to severe impairment in your life and even cause a huge amount of distress. Additionally, a ComScore report from 2017 showed that the average American adult spends 86 hours every month just staring at the screen of their cell phone. That's 3 consecutive days. In addition to this, it's clear that many people today have been spending much more time on their cell phones than they should be. And with this in mind, it's clear that cell phones have begun to negatively affect how we work in society. I'm not saying that we should throw away our cell phones and destroy them, never think about them again. That clearly wouldn't be good. But what I am saying is that cell phone addiction in society today is becoming a major problem and one that we need to address. Cell phone addiction affects many facets of our life, but one of them is our social functions and activities. Cell phone addiction has been increasingly shown to affect many of the social functions and activities in our life. Have you ever been out to dinner with a girlfriend or significant other, casually talking to your friend, when all of a sudden, in the middle of you telling them something pretty important, they casually take out their phone, start glancing at it, and are completely not listening to you when they should be? Well, now there's a term for this. It's called phubbing, abbreviated for phone snubbing. And although many people have brushed it off as just a crazy modern trend that may soon pass, it could be a permanent and indicative example of how cell phone addiction in society today is increasingly affecting how we work socially. For example, the American Addiction Center also made a report last year that showed cell phone addicts are now at risk for mental illnesses that could affect how they interact with other people. People who are addicted to their cell phone could in fact have impaired self-esteem, constantly comparing themselves to others because of social media use. They might have extra distress in their life, an impaired ability to work, and maybe even an impaired ability to go to social functions. Clearly, this isn't good at all, and it's just one of the reasons why cell phone addiction is hurting how we act in society today and hurting our social functions. However, what may be even more important than social functions is how cell phone addiction actually affects our work in society. What we contribute to the world, our jobs, our contributions to the economy is probably the single most important thing about ourselves. It's how we make a living. It's how we live. But recently, reports have shown that cell phone addiction is threatening our jobs and how successful we are at them. A recent report by Office Team showed that for every day we spend at work, an hour is wasted on our phone. An hour that we could be doing successful work. And not only is this hour not just some block of time that we put at the end of our day, it's scattered throughout our workday, so that every 15, maybe even 10 minutes, somebody hears a buzz on their phone and checks it, completely distracted for maybe another 15 minutes as they can't get back to work at all. Now, obviously, this is a huge problem for adults alike, as they need to be working on deep work, periods of 1 to 2 hours in which there are no distractions, where they can get productive and efficient work done, which makes them more successful at their jobs. However, where it may be even more of a problem is with me, high school students. I admit I'm guilty to getting distracted on my phone a lot, but the horror stories that I hear when I walk into school of my friends not being able to get a single page of work done or finish that really important essay just completely boggles my mind. They go down, they sit at a desk, and they pull out their phone. They can't do it. They can't even work for 5 minutes before being distracted. They tell me that it's even begun to affect their sleep patterns. For example, last year, when I was a sophomore in high school, I would only get about 5 hours of sleep. And if you know how early high school begins, 7:20 at my school, I had to wake up at 5:45 a.m. every single day after going to bed at sometimes 12:30, 1, maybe even 2 o'clock in the morning. Clearly, this wasn't good at all. So I knew I had to make some sort of a change in my life. After hearing about what all my friends were doing, how they were getting distracted, I knew I had to change my ways and work to make a difference. So I did just that. When I go home now, every day, my phone goes in the drawer. I don't look at it. I spend 1 hour, maybe 2 hours working. And after that, I'm done. I make sure that I'm not on my phone before I go to bed. I get a good night's rest. And it's just that at my household. Now, clearly, my mother and my father, who are in the audience, haven't really shaped up to my ways yet. But I am trying to convert them nonetheless. However, I think there's a scarier side of this. My friends in school who go on their phones all the time, they're doing something that's really a bad habit. It's something that could continue with them to college, to their professional lives. When they get out there in the workforce, if they're just constantly going on their phones, and if they're not taking up the practices that I have, then it could pose a real threat to them and their careers. So I'd like to sit down today and tell you that cell phone addiction, something that I'm guilty of, is something that we all need to address today. Please, go home, maybe take that cell phone compulsion test. By the way, if you get above a 5, you're addicted. And please, the next time you're out at dinner, talking to a friend, wife, husband, don't phone snub them. Don't pull out your phone and get completely distracted. I know I've been guilty of it. My parents totally are. But nevertheless, cell phone addiction is something that we need to address in society today. So, thank you.